Howler podcast. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Mary.
And we are on episode 11. Woo! So this is very exciting because next episode, so our September episode, will be our 1-year anniversary of the Howler podcast.
So cool.
So cool. And to celebrate, we are going to do a special 1-year anniversary live recording of the Howler podcast. So if you are a current PAC member, you will be able to either tune in live in person. If you're here in Minnesota, you can join us in the cafe, or you can join us on Zoom, and you'll be able to be a part of the podcast as we record it. So really excited, kind of nervous, but we'll be able to edit it if we mess up.
I'll probably look at the inside view of like bloopers and things in real time.
Literally. And speaking of bloopers, like we have some fun little segments planned for the 1-year anniversary, some blooper reels, some highlights, just some fun stuff. So really excited to celebrate 1 year. We did it. We've been doing this for 12 months.
Yeah, that's a year.
Which equals 1 year. If you didn't know.
Well, I was just going to say, and when Chelsea says if you're a PAC member, you could be part of the recording, we really mean it. We're ideating a little bit around like, do we bring up some like Howler guests to like share a favorite moment or just be part of it? So if you come, you might get to share and also be on the podcast.
Yeah, which, again, these are external podcasts. You could become a superstar. You never know. Like, you could become famous. So join us for the Howler Live. For PAC members, invites will go out very soon if they aren't out already. And also, speaking of our listeners, Mary and I have been thinking about how we need a fun name for our listeners of the Howler podcast. And our brains immediately went to the Howlers, but that's kind of boring. Like, it's called the Howler podcast. We don't want to confuse everyone and be called the Howlers. So if you have we're open to it. If that's what the people want, we'll give the people what they want. But if you have any fun ideas for what the podcast should be named, we're going to put a little prompt in the Howler Slack channel. And if you want to respond in the thread, if you have a fun name for our listeners.
Yeah, for the community.
For the community.
The name.
Yes. So get excited for the 1-year anniversary. But before that, we've got an episode for you right now. And we've got a really fun guest.
Yes, we're super excited for our conversation with Dan Larson. Dan's our Chief Marketing Officer. He oversees corporate marketing, brand communications, technical marketing, demand generation, enablement, product marketing, and marketing technology. His background includes 15 years of sales, product, and marketing leadership experience with a proven track record of building powerful technology brands by establishing best-in-class market positioning, competitive differentiation, and product messaging.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, we are very excited. And we always start all of our podcast episodes with a fun little game based off what we know about the guest. So what we know, we know many things about you, but we thought it would be really fun knowing that you developed our mission statement and cyber risk to play a little game to see if you can guess the marketing slogan. Okay, so I'm going to read the slogan and you just have to guess what brand or company it is.
Oh, okay. I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. And Mary and I talked about finding really obscure ones, and then I couldn't even find obscure ones on the internet. Like, they only wanted to give me the most famous slogans of all time. So I'm sure you'll get these, but some of them stumped me. So I don't know. Some might be a challenge. They might
Challenge
not be.
accepted.
Okay, we'll start. Bet you can't eat just one.
That's sort of like once you pop, you can't stop, which is Pringles.
Okay.
But who is the bet you can't eat just one? I don't know. Let's go Skittles.
Here's the thing with that slogan. It can apply to so many things. Oreos, Skittles, like anything I can think of that I like, I can't eat just one of them.
Yeah.
But no, it is Lay's potato chips.
Oh, man.
That was one I didn't know either. So
Okay. Oh for 1.
okay, Fly the Friendly Skies.
I don't even know if this is a current one. I feel like I remember this from the 90s. I'm going to go American Airlines.
United.
Dang it.
So close.
My gut was saying United. My brain was saying American. I gotta trust my gut.
Mm-hmm. Belong Anywhere.
Ooh, belong anywhere. What helps you fit in? Some kind of camouflage? Belong anywhere. Well, wait, it's probably a membership program. Maybe like Amex.
Okay. That was a good, I love the thought process and reasoning. Although that is incorrect. It is Airbnb.
Oh, that's such a good one. Good job, Airbnb. I like that one.
Okay. Because You're Worth It.
Ooh. This is some kind of luxury good, like a diamond, let's go De Beers.
No, but what's so funny is De Beers is going to be my next one because theirs is Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh, right.
But this, Because You're Worth It, is L'Oreal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess if I have one weakness in my marketing game, it's women's cosmetics. Shame on you. Got to study up.
Snap, Crackle, Pop.
Rice Krispies. Hello.
Correct. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, I didn't know that one. Did I just live under a rock? I don't remember that.
Big part of my childhood. Those commercials were everywhere, like in the 80s.
Okay, just a few more. You're in Good Hands.
With Allstate.
Correct. Obey Your Thirst.
Oh, I think it's Sprite.
Correct. Okay, now you're on a roll.
Yep. Just had to get warmed up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, last one. That was easy.
Whoa. Hold on. That was easy. Oh, wait. Staples. They made the easy button.
Yes. Okay, good job. I didn't know that one. But now that you say the easy button, that makes sense.
Staples. All right.
All right, fun. Well, I feel like I learned a lot when I was researching these. Because I don't know like when I think of Airbnb, I don't know if I've heard like Belong Anywhere. Like, I don't know if people are really.
Maybe it's new.
Well, you know what's interesting is that for so many of them, I thought of the competitor. Like for Because You're Worth It, I was like, oh, that's Maybelline. I know this one.
Wait, I know that one. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Well, that one is Maybe She's Born With It. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah.
But then also the one that was like, for You're in Good Hands, my brain said State Farm.
Oh.
No, State Farm is there.
But with like slogans, as a marketer, is that something you think about, like that your slogan actually connects to the wrong brand? To mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you're supposed to do testing, catch your blind spots, stuff that maybe you overlooked. But also like in those hyper competitive industries like insurance, like they also advertise next to each other all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you watch any sporting event, it's like there's 5 commercials in the break, 2 are for trucks and 3 are for insurance. So I could see how they just by adjacency, they like blur together.
Okay, well, speaking of marketing, we want to know about your journey to marketing. It's not typically when you ask kids when they're in preschool, first grade, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're often not like, I would like to be a field marketing manager or a CMO. So we would love to know. Well, firstly, this too. I heard you on another podcast that I really like, Armchair Expert, and learned that you were a pizza delivery driver. So we know that was in the mix at some point. But how did we get from, what was the kid dream? Like if we asked you in kindergarten, what did you want to be? What would that be? How do we get then from there to being a pizza delivery boy to then now a CMO?
The first answer to the question that I can remember there was like a project in elementary school. I think it was third grade. Basically,
Okay.
like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my answer to that question was I wanted to own a ski hill or like ski resort.
Incredible.
That was my dream because I was really big into downhill skiing, and also, my dad was a small business owner. He was a dentist who owned his own practice in this small town. So I was just like, I thought when you grew up, you just like owned a business, like that's what everybody did.
Okay.
So all of my goals were like own your own business kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then when I got like a little older, like 12, when you first like have some agency and you're like, I want to make some money so I can, buy a new bike or whatever.
Yeah.
I would just do everything. And also like growing up in a small town, like made it easy. I could just go knock on people's doors and be like, can I mow your lawn? Can I shovel your driveway? All of that stuff. And my parents kind of encouraged that. I also had an older brother who was pretty entrepreneurial. So we were always coming up with different like money-making schemes. So
what were some of these schemes?
Well, there was a period like before I could drive, so like 13, 14, where like the big cool new thing to do was like to play paintball. So we were into it, teenage boys running around shooting paintballs in the woods. But me and my older brother figured out that there weren't any like stores anywhere nearby to get the supplies. So we borrowed money from our parents to basically become the local, supply depot for all the stuff you need, like safety masks. And
wow.
Because my dad was a dentist, he had you use CO2 gas to power the paintball guns. So we can fill up people's tanks for them, charge them $5. It only costs us 8 cents.
Oh, wow.
So that was one, and there were just several after that. Like in high school, me and some of my friends, like we won a statewide business plan writing contest to manufacture hammock stands.
Okay.
It was like at the time eBay was a new thing, and I remember like, oh man, I want to buy one of these really cool big Mayan hammocks. They're like the king size bed of hammocks, but nobody was selling stands on eBay, so we said, let's sell some stands.
Wow.
Did you do that? Like you sold stands?
Yeah, we did that for a little while, and basically until we went to college, and then we shut it all down.
Oh my gosh, I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, and I want to know, in the door-to-door phase of your career, like were you already starting to hone your craft in like a compelling mission or finding ways to convince people to let you mow their lawn? Like what did you, any learnings from those days?
No, well, I mean, maybe it's because it's so obvious, but I came with references like, hey, I'm already mowing your neighbor's lawn. Okay. While I'm doing theirs, I can just do yours too because I'm here and the mower is gassed up and ready to go. So that was probably the only tactic that translates in any way to modeling stuff.
Okay, so then how? Well, so you always had like an entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. What eventually like interested you in technology and then marketing specifically?
Well, in like the late 90s, I was in high school and I started getting really into like photography and video production. And at the time, like buying a Mac computer was just like completely out of reach, cost wise. And I learned that you could like build a PC for a fifth of the cost. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I want to do all this stuff, but I can't afford the computer to do it. I'm going to take my money, I'm going to build my own PC, and I'm going to start doing my like digital photography and video production stuff. So I got pretty like technical pretty fast. And then that kind of got me into IT jobs in college. And then the IT jobs got me into technical sales. I kind of started my working on the vendor side in cybersecurity as a sales engineer. And then once I was doing that, I realized that the part of the job that I really liked was understanding the customer needs, understanding the market, and then kind of figuring out how to pitch it. I would keep finding myself in these situations where I was doing like the sales enablement or the partner enablement. And once I figured out that, that's not that's part of an SE's job, but it's really a product marketer's job. And once I had that kind of eye-opening moment, this was around 2010, 2011, when I was still at McAfee. It was around that time I jumped from the sales side to the marketing side as a product marketer, and then it just went from there. Like I fell in love with the other aspects of the marketing discipline, and just kept having really cool opportunities. At the time, McAfee was still thriving. They were always buying new companies. So I kind of got to be like the new company guy. Like, all right, we're absorbing this new company. We need to understand what it does and how to be successful selling it. So that was my role there for a while. Then I kind of took all those skills and ended up leading the product marketing department at CrowdStrike for 5 years. And then when I came to Arctic Wolf, I wanted like a bigger challenge. Right? I didn't want to just continue in the vein of product marketing. And at the time, that kind of like product marketing security expertise was something that Arctic Wolf needed more of. So I was a good fit. And then Nick Schneider was willing to give me the opportunity to lead the other functions of marketing, and it's been a real pleasure to do so for the last 4.5 years.
It's always just so fun hearing everyone's journey from like wanting to own a ski hill to being a CMO at a cybersecurity company. I'm curious, there's obviously pros and cons to being an entrepreneur. There's pros and cons to being in corporate. Do you have any regrets not like pursuing your entrepreneurial passions, or do you think that's maybe something you'll do again later in life?
Not really regrets, because I'm really, delighted with the way that the like corporate path, worked for me. I think having an attitude of ownership and kind of an entrepreneurial, zeal or, approach to it is probably one of the best things you can have when you're on the corporate path. So yeah, I'm really happy with where my career ended up. I do still have a little bit like, someday before I fully, retire, I'll want to have one on the board that was mine,
Okay.
So that's out there. Yeah, it's like on my dream board, it's not like it's not like my current priority, but I think, someday it's still something I want to do.
Okay, love that. Well, we obviously don't want you to leave Arctic Wolf anytime soon, but we'll help you manifest that when the time comes.
Thank you.
So we had Steve Craig on the podcast last month, and he was talking about the close relationship between sales and marketing, and how you all collaborate here at Arctic Wolf. So could you maybe dive a little bit deeper, talk about the way the two teams work together and how that is like a differentiator for us and how that makes us stronger?
Yeah, I say it all the time. Like one of Arctic Wolf's superpowers is the good working relationship and the productive collaboration between the sales and marketing team. It's the best I've ever seen in my career. And to be, perfectly fair to the leaders who came before me, like they deserve most of the credit. Like I say it a lot of, I've said it many times that having both two of my current VPs, Megan Flanagan and Megan Aubuchon, here before me, they've both been here for over 5 years, and they had close working relationships with Steve and Will and Nick Schneider. So they were already sort of like a pretty tight-knit, well-functioning group that was already kind of like they had the DNA. They were like the double helix had already been formed, and that was like the foundation for success. And then everything after that is really just a matter of kind of mindset. They've done a good job. My other leaders have done a good job. And now most of the marketing team, or really, I think all of it, they're kind of unique in that they're hungry to hit the number and they're motivated to hit the number, just like the sales team is. So when you have both people pushing that hard in one direction, that's how you get, really good outcomes. And underneath all of that, there's like the technical operating layer of how we report and the meetings that we have, to constantly, fine tune and check in on the well-being of the go-to-market engine. And I think that's the other thing. Like we don't think of it as sales and marketing. They're really just a single go-to-market engine that has to work well together and fire on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. So it's a combination of the relationships, the good leaders, that came before me, and now just sort of the operational rigor and discipline that we have around one shared goal, which is to hit the number every quarter. So there's, I'm very happy that it was that way when I came to Arctic Wolf. I think we've made it a lot better in the 4.5 years that I've been here. And I know now we're just kind of beginning as the portfolio expands more. We're going to keep demanding more and more of that engine. And to me, that's an exciting opportunity because I know the engine is ready for it. I'm not nervous about it. Like, is this ready to, expand or pivot or move in a new direction? No, it's good to go. We just need to add more fuel to the engine, whether it be new products, new geos, new routes to market, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, speaking of fuel and engines, we wanted to talk about our exciting partnerships that we have with Red Bull Racing and Meyer Shank. Tell us a little bit about how you decide who to partner with and create the marketing strategy around that.
Yeah, so at the core of the decision is you first have to just make the decision that you would like to have a brand program. And 4.5 years when I got here, we did not invest in brand at all. Instead, Arctic Wolf built its reputation in kind of the grassroots way, which is through the reseller channel partners, right? Which is that's kind of what I always say is the second magic of Arctic Wolf. Like the first one is sales and marketing working together in the go-to-market engine. And the second piece is the degree to which we have committed to the channel as our primary go-to-market or as our primary route to market, because that gives us incredible reach. The stat is like a year old now, but I was looking at some partner stats. It says we have, Arctic Wolf is still employee count wise, we're in like the mid 2000s, but there are 40,000 individuals who have been trained to sell Arctic Wolf. Wow. So that's, 40,000 people that if we weren't working through the channel, probably wouldn't know who we were. So that was sort of like step one of Arctic Wolf's brand journey, was go be successful in the channel, get these key players in the industry to know who you are and to go advocate on your behalf. But then if you want to go beyond that, that's where like full on brand marketing comes into the picture. And one of the first things you have to consider is kind of the reach, the audience, like how far can your brand go by that channel? And there's lots of ways to do that, right? You can do traditional media, billboards, out of home, radio advertising, TV commercials, or the one everybody always brings up is like a Super Bowl commercial, right? There's like 120 million people watch the Super Bowl, and you got to pay $10 million for a 30-second spot. So why don't we have a Super Bowl commercial? Well, my take is that a brand program also needs to, awareness is good, but pipeline for the sales team to go work is even better. And it's really hard to link, traditional advertising to anything other than awareness, right? And awareness doesn't necessarily put new leads and opportunities in the funnel for the sales team. And that's why these sponsorships work really well. So F1, I think, is the best in the world because there's 22, 23 Formula One races throughout the course of the year. Each one of those races has 120 million people watching it. So it's like 20 Super Bowls or 23 Super Bowls every year. So if you can get yourself on a prominent car, like we are currently with, the number one team for the last 3 years, Red Bull. So we get it, it's like we get 22 Super Bowl commercials a year for a fraction of the price. So that's on the awareness side. But then remember, because it's an event, we can host guests there. So if we have, prospects that we're trying to win a deal with, we can build better relationships by taking that person to the event, which is something you can't do if you're spending your brand dollars on radio or billboards or other more traditional avenues. So that's why we're in the game with sports team sponsorships, because they give you that unique combination of reach and visibility to a wide audience, but they also come with benefits that enable our field and event marketing teams to contribute to the sales engine.
I feel like this is going to be a masterclass for any other marketers and listening.
It all kind of depends, right? It's different too, because we're a business to business company.
Right, that's true.
Whereas if you're Nike,
Right.
you're not trying to like host your buyers in a suite somewhere, right? If you're Nike, you want the Super Bowl commercial, but if you're a B2B brand like us, you got to do both.
That's so interesting. I did not realize that many people view and watch a Formula One race. Like, I'm shooketh right now, as they say.
Well, it's nice too because it's a global audience, and
That's
at the
exactly
time,
what I was about to say.
yeah, at the time we were looking at doing some brand deals was the exact same time we were expanding to Europe, and since then we've also expanded to Australia and New Zealand.
Right.
So really, it ticked a lot of boxes, and from like an ROI, like a provable ROI perspective, it just beats the pants off of like traditional advertising.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say the Super Bowl is definitely more obviously geared toward an North American audience. I mean, some people tune in, but F1 is so much more global. So
the audience is different. The audience is more aligned to ours, like to our ideal customer profile. So, and it's no secret, right? Other high performing cybersecurity companies, it's a familiar play. Like many of our competitors sponsor other cars, and it's for good reason.
Yeah.
And then with Meyer Shank, IndyCar is more North America centric. All of their events are here. Like the downside of F1 is, on the North American continent, they're only here 4 times in a year. Whereas with IndyCar, there's like 20 races all in the USA, or there's 1 in Canada. So for more field activations to take both our sales team and their customers and our partners, IndyCar has just a lot more local activation opportunities in the USA.
Well, someone on our team, shout out Jenny, put a picture in the HR Slack of a t-shirt she brought from Abercrombie that had the Red Bull car on it, which of course has our logo on it. She's like, never thought I'd see company car on a shirt at Abercrombie.
Yeah, last year they also, Red Bull, put their car on their cans of the beverage. So our logo was on like 1 billion Red Bull cans around the world, which is pretty cool.
Okay. We were wondering if you could share a little bit about your creative process when you are trying to think of like out of the box ideas. Like, you're bringing the marketing team together. How are you all attacking a brainstorm, thinking of new strategy, etc.?
I'll just say, like, my own personal tendency is to be a studier. I'm a leave no stone unturned guy, which is both good and bad. It means my research tends to be very comprehensive, but also often very slow. And at some point it gets pedantic and you have to be like, okay, let's just resurface a little bit here. So I actually just had an offsite with my leadership team, and every person had 3 bits of homework that they had to do so that we could make the meeting more productive. So that's part of it. I just believe in, do the homework, study your competitors, study the industry analyst reports, know your customer, right? That's marketing's number one job is to know the customer. So I start, when it's time to tackle a new problem, how are we going to go international, or how are we going to win in this new market? At least step 1 for me is to do your homework, study everything that's studyable. This is also why I think generative AI, like ChatGPT, is going to be so helpful, especially for marketers. A lot of reports are saying that marketing is sort of the number one function of the business that can benefit from generative AI for this exact reason, right? It's already read the whole internet. instead of me having to go read 50 reports, I can have a conversation with ChatGPT to figure stuff out. And if you know how to, do your prompt engineering properly, you can get good results. So step one, do the homework. Step two, I try to really get diversity of opinion in the room. Sometimes I'll go as far as to assign a designated naysayer so that we all don't fall in love with like the first idea or the loudest idea. I will use, some of the tactics people are familiar with, like you break up into groups, put your ideas in post-it notes, and just come back and we'll work on the post-it notes. So when I'm working with a group, I do try to use some of those more like formal and like well-known techniques. For me personally, I read this book called Lead Yourself First, which is all about like practicing solitude. And I still try to do that once a quarter, where I will do all my homework. Sometimes I'll bring homework with me. And then I'll just like go rent an Airbnb for like 2 or 3 days. And it's like my research retreat. I mean, Bill Gates famously did this first. That was the first, what did he call them? It's like a thing companies do now where you have it's like Think Week or something like that. He used to bring a bag of books, go to his cabin for a week, read them, and like come back with big ideas. So I try to do a mini version of that once a quarter, because if you don't like make the time to think strategically and like let your brain, process everything it absorbed and then turn them into ideas, then you don't have them. You just find yourself stuck in the grind, and years pass and you're like, what the heck happened? So I think you have to, for yourself, you got to carve out the time. And when you're getting the teams together, you got to kind of be formal and intentional about, trying to get the creative outcome that you want.
I love that. You said the book is called Lead Yourself First.
Yes. Yep. Okay. It's basically leaders, business leaders, military leaders talking about how they would actually get the opportunity to have like solitude, so they could basically, because it's hard in modern life to have any kind of solitude, especially if you got your phone in your hand.
Well, I know there's like examples, like Ryan Holiday with Stoic meditation, but he like lists a bunch of like leaders that intentionally block their calendars every morning, and they just buck the system of like, oh no, I'm in meetings all day, of like, no, I lead these huge companies and I purposely am not. I don't start my day with meetings so I can be creative.
Yep. It's hard. I think it's part of I think a lot of people ascend to leadership and they like, use all their old habits once they're in the leadership role. And I think you have to actually develop some new different habits around, strategic thinking, and, fostering the big ideas that will like take the company to the next level. And if you're booked 8 to 5 and back-to-back meetings, and you're not going to be doing the more important leadership work.
Well, this is the perfect segue, because we want to talk about leadership. So when you talk about when you get into those leadership roles, there's often new skills you need to learn. Would love to hear about maybe some of those skills that you have found have been really helpful in you leading your teams, and also what is some great leadership advice that you've been given over your career that has been helpful?
Let's see. The first like practical one I can remember, my very first job out of college was working in, I was actually in like a leadership program for GE, like one of those rotational things where every 6 months you do a different job. And one of the leaders, I think it was the CIO, in one of his first meetings with us said, he who reads the manual is the expert. And I thought, what are you talking about? Like, we aren't assembling IKEA furniture. Like what manual? What do you even mean? But over time, that has become more clear, because what he really meant was a lot of people are busy. A lot of people just roll into meetings like not really prepared. They don't have the context. They haven't done their homework. And they just like, it's hard for that person to be like a meaningful contributor to the meeting. And if you want them to do something big, like be a change agent, drive some new initiative or change the way a certain thing is done. If you haven't done your homework, if you haven't read the manual, like you're not going to be successful. So that one stuck with me. That's probably why I'm still such a homework doer and reader. Like that one is very practical, and I've seen it play out like time and time again. And like every once in a while you'll see some like Jeff Bezos, how he runs meetings at Amazon, and I feel like it's similar to this concept, right? Like they don't allow PowerPoint. You have to write a memo that's says what you want to do, like with your proposal in it, and it's all it's kind of like academic-y. It's like you got to do your homework. You have to write your proposal down. You have to justify it with evidence and that sort of thing. So I think that just that wavelength of be prepared, do the homework, read the manual, come ready, that affected me a lot. You always want to be the more prepared person in a meeting, not the less prepared. So that one was good. That was a good one in the early days. But then at least when I was starting to step into leadership roles, a book that really helped me a lot is called Multipliers, and this one has stuck around. Like they just released a new edition to it, and it talked about the practices of leaders, of how you're either a multiplier or a diminisher. And things like micromanaging are what diminishers do, and things like building a high trust but high accountability model is thing that multipliers do. And I do think that at the end of the day, as a leader, my job is to get the most I can out of my team, so that we can have the most positive effect on the business. And it's like, okay, well, how do you do that? Well, if you multiply the impact that each one of those that each individual can have on the business, that adds up, to a exponential increase in output if everyone is 5xing their output. So that was another good book that helped a lot. And then today I really rely on two philosophies. One is the Daniel Pink, the author. He did a TED Talk where he talks about how, like, what motivates modern knowledge workers. And it's three things. It's mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And I think for us, especially in a technology company that's in a highly competitive space, we're all knowledge workers, and my job as leader is to give them the autonomy they need to feel that they can own and do their work without being micromanaged. I think purpose just comes built in with cybersecurity. We're doing meaningful work. We're keeping the lights on so paychecks can go out to people who work for companies. And then mastery is really, if you're a professional, you probably desire to grow to grow in your field. As an expert, you want to build new capabilities. So this is about enablement, training, community. Everyone's on their own path. Like maybe you want to be the greatest copywriter in history. Well, if you're on my team, we're going to find a way, for you to build that mastery, a little bit every year. So those are the three tenets I rally around now. And then for anyone who's been through onboarding at Arctic Wolf, you hear me talk about the magical power of the RACI chart: responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. Because the one thing I remember from organizational management in college is that matrix organizations have crossed reporting lines, and everything breaks down if people don't understand who owns what, who's responsible for what. And I don't know if it's human nature or what it is about people just not wanting to explicitly say, you, sir, or you, ma'am, that all the stuff we've been talking about today, you own this one. And that's something every project that I'm involved in here, we always take that step. Never skip it.
Wow. Amazing. I love, even in just hearing you talk about leadership, you can tell that you do your homework, because your ability to recall the books you've read and the things that have impacted you, they've clearly stayed with you, and you take the leadership responsibility seriously. So back to your homework analogy, you can tell that you've done it. Speaking of kind of going back to the Lead Yourself First book, jumping over to wellness, we always like to ask how you prioritize well-being for not only yourself, but how do you model that for your team as well?
My approach is to like set limits. So for example, I have Slack on my phone, but I don't have notifications turned on. And like everybody knows that. I tell my leaders, I tell my peers, I tell everyone, I say, if it's, after hours or whatever, like I don't pay attention to Slack. So you can call me, like if it's really important, call me, text me, whatever. So I try to find different areas where I can like set boundaries. It gets harder and harder, as a leader because, think about if some catastrophic event happens, like the outage that happened last Friday. If you're a C-suite executive as a company, it's hard to say like, sorry, I'm on the beach today. I'm not going to help with this global crisis that's taking down, airlines and Starbucks and everything else. So you set the boundaries like where you can, like with exceptions. And I also think for me, like at least personally, like you run the risk of having a very upset husband or wife or significant other, if you're trying to be on the beach, but you got to be on the phone because the whole IT infrastructure of planet Earth is falling apart. But I think for my wife Megan, she'll kind of know that, right? She'll be like, okay, he's going to have a bad work day today, but at least they'll make up for it, right? Like Friday is going to be a total disaster. He'll take Monday off, right? So there's just kind of like, it's the same with like trade shows and stuff. If you got to be gone, it takes a big chunk of your time, but you got to kind of, balance the scorecard out a little bit by saying, all right, I had to be gone 5 days a week last week. Maybe I'll take Monday off to, go reset and reconnect on the home front. And I think, depending on what role you're at in the organization, it is like, you can unplug when you're on vacation for a lot of roles at this company. But I think that's part of the difference between, more senior leaders and younger people at the company. And I don't know, I think the people on my team know that, I want them to take their time off. I educate them on the fact that like people who take their time off, they stay at companies longer, they perform better, right? I say, it's good for you, it's good for me, like we should do this. I don't want to create an environment where you feel like you'll somehow be punished if you use the benefits that this company gives you, right? That's kind of absurd. So yeah, I encourage people to take time off. I encourage people to work. We're lucky to have like a flexible work policy here. Like you don't have to be in your chair at 8 a.m. and leave at 5. You can, if you got to drop your kids off in the morning and you want to show up at 9 and clock out at 4, but do a couple hours from 6 to 7 or whatever. Like I just think that's, from my perspective, that's just how modern work is done, right? Everything is more kind of like flexible now, and as long as we're getting the outcomes, I'm less worried about the manner in which it's done. I'm more worried that people are happy, fulfilled, capable, and hitting the number.
Dan, were you trying to spend the day with the family on the beach on Friday? That felt really the reality.
Nope, I was okay on Friday, but that was going through my head because my wife is actually traveling right now, and I was like, oh man, if I had tried to parlay her trip into a vacation, it would have been a very bad Friday.
Did she get stuck, or is she?
We're gonna find out. She's supposed to fly home tomorrow.
Okay. Well, sending good vibes her way.
Yep.
I did fly this weekend, but thankfully I didn't have any issues, so I lucked out.
Were you flying Southwest? Apparently, they're like the only airline not impacted by this.
Yeah. No, I was flying Delta, but I flew Thursday, so that was before, obviously. But I flew Sunday, and it was fine. Although getting to Minneapolis Airport, it was like the Wild Wild West when I landed. It was interesting in there.
Especially since it's a Delta hub and they got hit really hard by this thing.
Well, I love you talking about just the realities of like I don't know if checks and balances is the right phrase, but like, I don't feel like people talk about that often of like when you're in a really high demand role and like it does take away from it gives a lot to your family and the people you care about, but also takes away just like the intentionality to think through like, okay, I was gone like the whole week, but I'm going to be intentional.
Yeah, I think it's just an adjustment you got to make. And if you plan for it, it's just, you can make it work. You just got to be intentional about it.
Mm-hmm. And I loved hearing you talk about the ways that you're able to set boundaries where you can, because again, that just is so important for your team to see you model that so that they are given permission, to do that themselves. So yeah, I just loved your take on well-being. Mary, anything else before we get to rapid fire?
I really want to know. I know we're getting close to time, but I think we'll still have time. I really want to know, Dan, your key ingredients, if you will, or your recipe or your tips for people that like are building a brand, whether that's like for a startup for their business or for a personal brand. Like, what are the key elements to a brand?
For me, the litmus test is, like how people talk about you when you're not in the room. And that's hard to know, but you can see the effects, right? Because if you're a person that people like speak highly of, you'll get more like new people like either trying to connect with you or engaging with you or whatever. And my approach has always just to be like, if you're involved in any project, anything, like be a driver, not a passenger. Try to be the person who, like, a couple years from now, they're like, man, every time Susie gets involved in a project, like the project just ends up way better. Everything she touches turns to gold. Because if you do that for a sustained amount of time, the natural effect will be a good personal brand, right? Mm-hmm. So then, like once it exists and it's of high quality, then you're in a position to talk about like promotion techniques, like either like self-promotion or you'll get recognized for certain things. But I feel like a lot of times when people are talking about personal brand, they skip to that second part of like, how do I promote myself more? And I feel like they forgot the first part, like, what have you ever done? Like you forgot the accomplishments part. So I just tell people like it's a slow process. It's earned, and I don't know. Maybe there's like a generational gap here, but I feel like it's hard to have a personal brand if you haven't been in your career for like less than 5 years, because what would you have like meaningfully accomplished in that time? And I'm sure there's exceptions. I'm sure there are people out there doing amazing things early, but I don't know. A lot of times when I get asked this question, that's my first thing, like, oh, like what do you want to promote other than your name? Right? Or like, what would your tagline be for yourself? Like, yeah. So I don't know. I see it as two parts. Like first, bank a bunch of accomplishments, and then two, like how to self-promote. You can Google that, or I bet the ChatGPT answer is pretty darn good.
So it sounds like the key, well, it makes me think, because you were talking about when you were, selling your lawn care services door to door, you would like show that you're trusted by the neighbor to do the lawn. And I know you talk all the time about the importance of trust. So it kind of sounds like a key ingredient is just like obviously having of a brand is that like quality product, if you will, and the trust.
Yeah. Or here's another lens to look there. I just had a friend do this. He had a couple of successful exits from big cybersecurity companies. So he's kind of ready to retire, but he kind of wanted to stay in the game. So he decided to make himself a part-time or a fractional product marketing manager. And if you want to, so imagine you were going to do that. You were going to take your discipline and say, you know what, I'm going to go as a freelancer. I'm going to do it part-time. How many people, after you announce this on LinkedIn, would come to you and say, oh, sweet, you're available now? I'd love to get you involved in my project.
Yeah.
And if it's a low number of people, then you have a personal brand problem. And you should work to make that a large number of people.
What if they like me, but they just don't need my services?
Well, you can see I'm wearing my entrepreneur hat again. I'm not
Yeah,
thinking about being liked. I'm thinking about turning it into dollars.
right. Okay, that's an interesting thought to ponder. Okay, we are at our final questions. These are our rapid fire questions, just fun, easy, first thing that comes to your mind. Okay, best concert of your life.
Tenacious D opening for Weezer in 2001.
Whoa. Tenacious D opening for Weezer. That's fun. I didn't know. Wait, Tenacious D is Jack Black, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know he went on tour.
Well, it's a thing.
Okay, fun. Okay, what's your favorite word?
Congratulations.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Congratulations. Okay, a place on your bucket list.
Lake Como, Italy.
Hmm. What's something that people often get wrong about you?
They think I'm a big racing F1 IndyCar fan because we sponsor them. I kind of became a fan and I pay attention because of the sponsorship, but I'm not. Before the sponsorships, I was completely neutral, and now my fan status is casual.
Okay. Okay. And finally, give us a snapshot of an ordinary moment in your life that has brought you joy.
Well, just this week, while my wife's been gone, I've been solo parenting our 1-year-old, and I think she's starting to answer questions. So I was like, "Oh, are you ready for some food?" And she goes, "Yeah." I was like,
Aww.
"It's happening."
I wasn't sure where we were going there when you were like, "I'm solo parenting our 1-year-old." I was like, "Is this going to be a funny answer or is he being serious?"
It's adorable. She's doing milestones, and I'm there to be a part of it.
I just love that. That is a reoccurring theme / answer to this question is seeing your child like reach milestones and achieve things. And I just love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, you survived. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was so fun to just get into the mind of a marketer, hear about how you prioritize well-being, the way that you lead your team. I'm really excited for both our PAC members and then externally the public to be able to get to know a little bit more about you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thank you.
Okay, another great conversation, another podcast episode in the books, our final episode of our first year of the podcast. I'm just going to keep repeating that all podcasts.
Season 1.
Season 1, yeah. Season 1, first year. Okay, well, as always, thank you all for listening, continuing to listen. Please share any fun takeaways in the Howler Slack channel. If you are a PAC member, we have some fun things coming up to close out the summer in August and September. We have our Summer Madness, which there's a lot of elements of the madness. We've got our in-person cornhole tournament for those that are in offices. That sign up has already gone out in our last Howler newsletter, but it will be in the August Howler newsletter as well. We also will be doing a remote Summer Madness Coffee Connection Roulette, which those details will be in the Howler newsletter, and also I will share in the remote office Slack channel. And finally, as Dan was sharing, we have our lovely Red Bull Racing and Meyer Shank partnerships, and we are going to do some trivia throughout the 5 weeks of Summer Madness with the opportunity to win some cool Meyer Shank and Red Bull Racing swag. So be on the lookout in the Howler Slack channel for the trivia related to Summer Madness. We also, in September, will be hosting our 4th annual Run with the Pack 5K. So please make sure to sign up and register for that by August 28th so that you can get your t-shirt in time. And again, this is just a fun run or walk, whatever feels comfortable to you, that we've done the past 4 years. And we also will be fundraising for some cybersecurity and tech nonprofits as part of our training. So to find more, you can go to the Run with the Pack 5K Slack channel or Confluence page.
Yes. And then the other really exciting thing we have going on in August is we are doing our that's what I call a top workplace celebration, because we've been named a great place or a top workplace for millennials by Great Places to Work in the United States. In addition to top workplaces for technology Canada, best place to work San Antonio, and best place to work Minnesota. So lots of exciting PAC wins around the globe. I also forgot to mention we were named or certified a great place to work UK in the UK for the second year in a row. So internally, we'll have a millennial themed celebration with everyone's favorite nostalgic snacks like Dunkaroos and Sunny D and fruit roll-ups. So look forward to that internally. We can celebrate just the unique community we have and all of you that are part of it. And if you're not part of the pack, but you would like to become part of us and help us advance our mission of ending cyber risk, you can check out our open positions at arcticwolf.com/careers. We will see you in September with our fun 1-year anniversary celebration with some behind the scenes tidbits, some bloopers, and maybe you'll get to meet some pack members too from around the pack.
Yes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.